In November, Florida elected its first ever African-American prosecutor, Orlando State Attorney Aramis Ayala. Thanks in part to $1.4 million in campaign donations from a group funded by investment billionaire George Soros, a death penalty opponent. In March, as Ayala faced her first major capital prosecution, she made an announcement that shocked the community.
After careful review and consideration of the new statute, under my administration, I will not be seeking death penalty in cases handled in my office.
Now she's at war with Florida Governor Rick Scott over who gets to prosecute Florida's most consequential cases.
I want to go.
Get down. Get down.
Aramis Ayala lives with her family in the Orlando suburbs. She worked for nearly a decade as a public defender before switching to the prosecution side in 2014. Then she beat out her boss for the top job last year. As one of just 20 state attorneys in Florida, Ayala decides what penalties to seek in criminal cases.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you? Good.
Why did you decide to make the blanket statement that you would never pursue the death penalty?
I never used the word never in my announcement. I thought that it was important to let everyone know that we have a problem in our death penalty system. And until that is fixed, which I don't expect to be fixed anytime soon, I have no intent on moving forward with death on any cases.
This is a closeout letter for an executive order we did for Polk County that Deneen Carrier handled. Okay. So that's going to discharge us. Once you sign it, I'll get it over to the governor.
The day after I took office, there were rulings coming from the Supreme Court of Florida dealing with death penalty. And it was at that point where I'm like, this thing is big. Then Monday morning, Lieutenant Clayton was killed.
Tonight, Markeith Lloyd formally charged with first-degree murder in the death of Lieutenant Deborah Clayton. For 9 days, Orlando police used every resource to catch the 41-year-old accused cop killer.
So right away, it hadn't even been a week in office, and what most would perceive as a possible death penalty case hit my desk.
Police say Markeith Lloyd killed Lieutenant Deborah Clayton after killing his pregnant ex-girlfriend. So why not just come out and say, I don't intend to seek it in the Markeith Lloyd case, and then quietly go about doing your job?
The reason that I did not make a statement just about Markeith Lloyd is because, number one, if I say that I'm not seeking it in Markeith Lloyd, the next question is, well, if you're not seeking it in that, then what would you seek it in? I owed the public a response to that.
Ayala says the death penalty is expensive, not a deterrent to crime, and a false promise to victims' families. And she has a point. There are 368 people on death row in Florida, and some have been awaiting execution for as long as 40 years.
There's the theory of death penalty, of what people say, and then there's the truth of the death penalty system in Florida. When a person is convicted of a crime, and then they're sentenced to death, that's not the end. That is the beginning of decades and decades and decades of appeals.
But Ayala never stated her position on the death penalty during the campaign, and critics say she's putting her personal convictions above her responsibility to enforce the law. You are elected in a state that has the death penalty. You have a governor that is fiercely in support of the death penalty. Your first case involves the killing of a pregnant woman and a law enforcement officer, and you're 1 month into office. Why risk your career?
It's not about risking my career. It's about doing what is right. And that is what I promised, and that is what I will continue to do.
Why didn't you make this point clearer to the voters?
When I ran for office, I don't recall it ever being an issue of death penalty. And quite frankly, I was an opponent of death penalty. While I definitely believe that I owe every voter an explanation, my explanation is I promised you that I would look into the details, the evidence, the research, and the facts whenever I make a decision, and that I would do what is just and fair.
Scott responded by taking all 23 of her murder cases and giving them to a prosecutor outside her district.
Not only has he tried to undercut my independence, he's downplayed the rights of the people who elected me to be in that position, that their voices were heard, who they want to make these decisions.
Now Ayala is suing Scott to get her cases back. Scott declined our request to be interviewed, but his office told Vice News that the families of victims deserve an attorney who will prosecute these cases to the fullest extent of the law.
Alana, did you wash your hands?
I missed a little bit.
You missed what?
I missed a little.
Ayala has gotten death threats and even received a noose in the mail. Still, she stands by her decision.
Your level of accountability changes as the elected prosecutor, so I made the decision. Until I know that it is proper to move forward, I'm not moving.
If the court rules in Governor Scott's favor, what does the rest of your term look like?
I just want to read what the, wow, you threw me with that one. However the court rules, I want to just read their ruling, accept their directives if it's a directive towards me, and I will honor whatever the court rules.